The time has finally come, my dear fleshy, carbon-based nerds, and I'm so excited for it. It's time for us to review the Anbernic RG35XXSP. But there's more, because we're not just gonna review this little mother flipper. I actually have the retro grey model as well. And I'm so glad that I do, because nobody seems to talk about the fact that there's immense differences between the color palettes. And I'm gonna touch on this later in the video, so sit back, relax, prepare for a one-on-one with me, because we're gonna have quite a long chat. And just for the sake of organizing this video, I'm gonna start with the good things, because everybody loves positive poop, and then I'm gonna continue on with the bad things, because there are also some bad things that I hate about this particular handheld. And in case you're wondering why I have two of them, is because I bought the retro grey one with my own money, thinking that I would do a review for you fine nerds, but later down the line, as this little mother flipper was making his way from China to me, the awesome guys at LitNXT actually hit me up and they asked me, "Hey Vlad, do you want an Anbernic RG35XXSP?" And I was like, of course, duh. And I'm so glad that I have two colors right now, because I never expected to see differences between them. But just as always, this video is not sponsored, my thoughts are my own, nobody received a copy of this video beforehand, and I will take this review wherever my feedback goes. But personally speaking, I do love this store. I consider them competitive with good prices, and they actually have good customer support. So if you want to check them out, I'm gonna leave a link to the SP in my video description, and you can also use the coupon code VLADNERD10 to get an additional 10% off your order. Anyway, moving on into the neuroticism of this review, because I really went deep inside my head for this. Why does it feel like the whole freaking community congregated around this particular model? The SP has blown up, and I would even dare say that it blew up way more than the Mio Mini Plus. And yes, I know the gravity of this statement. I'm sticking by it. You see, my dear nerds, we're playing these freaking handhelds for the pleasure that we get from nostalgia. The dopamine that comes out of nostalgia feeds us, but that nostalgia can come in multiple forms. We can either use the games as a medium to feel good and to reminisce about the good old times, but if the handheld doesn't feel exactly like it felt when we were kids, then there's clearly a certain disconnect in the immersion there. Well, the thing is that the SP feels in the hand as we would expect. When you hold it in your hand, you instantly get teleported to how your original SP felt in the hand back in 2003 when you were probably just a kiddo, and I'm shocked how good they nail this feeling in the hand, because my initial impressions were quite negative. But I'm gonna dive into these a bit later. We're still in the good, positive part of the video. Look, I could talk about the specs and I could pretend that I'm a nerdy incarnation of a spec sheet, but there's no point to it. By now we all know that basically all of the recent Linux-based Anbernic handhelds have the same configuration. This one has an H700 SoC, 1 GB of RAM, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, but I choose to concentrate on the things that actually matter, which is the feeling of it, the enjoyment of using it. This is totally irrational, but using this actually feels amazing. It makes things like GBA feel native. I feel like I want to play GBA on this thing, whereas I would have ignored GBA on my RG35XXH. And this is quite a huge deal, my dear nerds. The hardware itself makes me feel that, not the raw power that it might have, which again is identical to the H. So in this sense, the hardware is A+. But again, I do have some complaints. Wait until the second half of the video. I am convinced that very few devices scratch that nostalgia itch like this one does. The way in which my brain reacts to the SP is as if the original SP from the memories in my brain teleported in my hand right now. The in-hand feel is similar enough to basically trick my brain and my brain loves it because it's not the smartest organ that I have. You can play everything that the H can, which doesn't require thumbsticks. And I know a lot of you fine nerds, for some reason or another, dislike having thumbsticks. I can say that I relate, I'm not one of them, I am a thumbstick SL *T, to each their own, we all have preferences. But for a handheld that doesn't have thumbsticks, this one is freaking amazing. And out of the two of them, I can outright say that I love the Blue Boy more. Yes, I'm calling this Anbernic RG35XXSP Blue Boy, and I'm calling this one Commodore Grey. My first PC was a Commodore, and that grey reminds me of this. Each of them are quite frankly a vibe. Sometimes I love the look and feel of the grey one, and I love the honesty of the thick bezels here. This one tries to be sneaky, Blue Boy tries to hide the thickness of the bezels with another black bezel, and if you know me, you know I hate that. Either embrace big bezels or go bezel-less, or bezel-less on three sides like the Mio Mini could. But alas, I digress. Using this is an absolute joy. It's... how should I put this? It brings back the nostalgia that I felt when I first emulated something. Back when I tried to emulate, I think, PS1 on the first PC, that sense of achievement, that sense of possibility that I felt, that somehow gets transposed into this. And it's only because of this flipping thing. I waited for the pun longer than anyone should, by the way. And this mother flipper, even though I think that this is not the most practical thing in the world, it plays in the nostalgia beautifully. And the battery is ridiculous. I've had this for quite a few more days than this. And bear in mind, I'm not just turning them on and off again. I play things on them. I genuinely play things. I pretend to test things, but I get lost in the process and I realize hours and hours pass. And I haven't charged them yet, neither this one nor this RG35XXSP Commodore Grey Boy edition. And this is crazy, because the whole point of a battery is to last you, I don't know, like 5 hours, or maybe more if you're lucky when you're out and about, when you're commuting. But these mother flippers, as far as I'm concerned, they simply refuse to die. But yeah, I don't want you fine nerds to think that, like, I'm borderline pleasuring this handheld and I'm showering it with compliments. There's actually quite a few things that I don't like, and we need to talk about it. First of all, this is one bulky mother flipper. I don't know if you... Whoa! Nice, I just realized the magnets attract, that their magnets make these two particular units stick together. These two mother flippers are very, very bulky. These are kind of like bricks. I was so bothered by this, and I still am to some extent, because the whole point of this flipping mechanism is to make a handheld portable. That's why when the Game Boy Advance SP was announced, people were excited because they could carry it wherever with them, the screen would be protected. But the original SP is not nearly as thick. This one is one big chunker. In fact, I would say that the Anbernic RG35XXH is about half the thickness of this one. Do you see this? And ironically enough, when it comes to portability, a thing that you would expect the SP to win, it kind of falls flat on its face when it comes to something like the Anbernic RG35XXH. But again, when I play SP on this, I feel like I'm using an emulation device. It depends on you if you're bothered by that. But when I play GBA on this, I feel like GBA belongs on this. Look at that sucker in the background right there. It looks absolutely beautiful running GBA. Way more beautiful than I would ever hope Wario Land to look on the H. So when it comes to the Anbernic RG35XXSP, what you need to understand is that we're kind of sacrificing function over form, because I do not feel like the SP is the most pocketable handheld out there, but I would expect it to be. Why the flip? Do we have flippy screens if not for pocketability? I know that actually I'm answering this question to myself. I know why. and I think you do as well, my sweet nerd. Which I hope you're still here with me and I'm not talking to myself like a madman. But I understand that Anbernic went along and made the flip anyway for the nostalgia factor and not necessarily for the function that a flippy screen actually brings. But I'm willing to forgive them because, well, this is no Steam Deck. It's not like you can't take it anyway. It's just that I think it can be slimmer and a bit smaller. Personally, I always hate to sacrifice function over form, but sometimes a device has too much charm not to forgive. But the one thing that pisses me off, outright pisses me off, is that it has no thumbsticks. And I know a lot of you will be okay with this. In fact, there are a lot of people that basically mutilated the Anbernic RG35XXSP by modding the thumbsticks out and just putting plugs in the holes. It was actually so sad to see that. This thing thrives into being what it is, which is a jack of all trades. So if you are in the no thumbstick camp, you will love this. I would have loved thumbsticks. I love the form factor, even though it's thick. I'm really pretending not to be a YouTuber right now and I'm speaking out of the heart. I truly think that Anbernic could have made this chunky boy thinner, because we know that they did. We had engineering samples of this flipping handheld which leaked and got photographed a few months before the SP actually released, and it was thinner and sexier, and it looked like the SP had gone to the gym for at least 6 or 7 months. But alas, I'm sure they had their reasons to make it a bit fatter, most probably because of the battery, and they didn't want to use the battery as a heatsink. But yeah, I digress. For what it is, it's amazing. If you don't necessarily want thumbsticks, this is an amazing choice. I can't guarantee that the hinge will last. I can't guarantee that the battery will last. I can't tell you if this will survive a fall on concrete because I'm not gonna test it. I love these flipping things. The Flip is quickly becoming my go-to play handheld because it flips. And if I was smarter as an individual, I would sometimes allow myself to just not overthink and just enjoy it and not think of, oh, it could be thinner, it could be smaller, it could have thumbsticks. For what it is, it gives me pleasure. And like I said at the beginning of the video, in case I didn't edit that out, I think the Anbernic RG35XXSP will be bigger than the Mio Mini Plus. I've been in the scene when the Mio Mini got released and when the Mio Mini Plus got released. For a device that had realistically no competition back then, it turned the retro emulation industry upside down. And this mother flipper has a ton of competition, and yet everybody wants it. And the only thing that I can hope for us as consumers is that Mio gets off their beautiful, respectable butt and releases a competitor to this, because the Anbernic RG35XXSP had no place being released before the Mio Mini Flip, which got teased to us since forever. And I saved the best thing for last, for all of you awesome nerds who still stuck around, and I want to touch on the colors, because I noticed quite a few differences between these two colors. These are not different color options, okay? We need to be aware of some things. These have different plastics. The transparent plastic, beautiful as it is a bit softer, which means that it gives you a different feeling in the hand compared to this one. The retro gray feels like a harder shell plastic, and this has both some advantages and some disadvantages. Look, I only have one non-transparent unit, but the hard plastic on this kind of creaks when I close it and open it. And I'm not sure if this is a prevalent thing, maybe I just didn't win the device lottery. I had a guy on my Discord channel, which by the way you should join, which also got the retro gray, and his didn't creak. And you know what? Actually, let me see if I can catch this on the microphone. Can you hear that? In case you heard that, there's like a tiny hinge creak. Most probably the hinge on this is way too tightened, or maybe it's the difference in the plastic, but the blue one doesn't have this problem. The blue one just closes as smoothly as one would expect. And another quite, well, fascinating thing that I found, wait a second, I need to open this one as well. They have different opening angles. It's not by a lot. I'm not sure if you can see. I think it's like only by a few degrees and doesn't affect anyone ever. But this is a difference with the Flippy boys. I'm proud of that. Which I noticed and which I figured you would be interested in. So yeah, does this Flippy boy or does Flippy boy get my endorsement? Well, I'm gonna say this. Out of these two, I like the transparent blue more. And I didn't expect to. Remember, I bought this one with my own money. When I saw the color options by myself, this was my first choice. But this one, the blue one, is pretty darn sexy in real life. Okay? This would be the RG35XXSP that I would meet at the chess club, and I would be able to talk geopolitics with, and about the economy, and about Friedrich Nietzsche and Kant, and I would feel intellectually stimulated because it would probably have a cardigan on and a sweater, and it would probably be a university professor. While the blue one would be the Anbernic RG35XXH, which I would meet at a rave party, the one that's charismatic, funny, cracks all the right jokes. The blue one overall just feels fun. This one feels stable and beautiful and wholesome and, quite frankly, I don't know, cozy. This one feels like he would be the cool kid in the classroom where these two went to high school in. That's how it feels. And just like any sweet piece of handheld that this one would be charismatic towards, I can fairly plainly say that he charmed me. I know, I feel bad about it because, remember, I was in love with this one, but you know, the retro heart wants what the retro heart wants. Until one of these suckers brings a Lord of the Rings ring, I cannot be tied down. I don't even know what I'm saying. So these are my thoughts on it. I love both of them, and not that I encourage you to hoard handhelds, you know, I kind of hate that, but these two really have different vibes. If you don't have multiple handhelds, I feel like this time you would have an excuse to lie to yourself that I'm just gonna get both, I'm probably gonna gift one to my brother or best friend or cat or guy down the street or the lady that sells fruit. Whatever excuse you give yourself just to feel both of them in the hand, I feel like this time might be justified. And then you can get to keep the one that wins your heart. Currently it's this one for me. But later maybe I'll go back to playing chess and feeling wholesome with this beautiful mother flipper. So yeah, my dear nerd, I've been fermenting over this flipping handheld for quite a long time by now, and I hope that I compressed most of my thoughts in as short of a clip as possible for you. And in case you're still here, do me this favor and subscribe. I'm not gonna give you fancy motives to, except that subscribing makes me happy, and this is a small channel and I would honestly really appreciate it. And if you want to support me more directly, bear in mind that just as we would support the free press, we also need to encourage small YouTube channels to remain independent, and I will always be independent. But if you want to encourage this tendency of not selling out, then you can also become a Patreon of mine or a YouTube channel member. Whichever variant you choose, you would be pretty flipping awesome either way, and you would of course take your rightful place on my wall of fame, where I have all these beautiful people who decided to support me more directly. And in case you're one of those guys that hangs out on Discord, also join my Discord. The link for it is again in the video description. And that pretty much wraps it up, my dear nerds. I'm gonna make some follow-up videos on the SP because I feel like there's so much to talk about. There's so many rabbit holes with this particular handheld. I have to test custom firmwares, I have some very important points to raise about it. So I hope that we'll see each other around. I love you very much, don't forget that. I love you more than most people in your life, except for your dog or cat. Appreciate your pets, okay? People are horrible, pets reign supreme. And right below pets, there's Vlad Nerd who loves you. And way below Vlad Nerd, there's like the rest of the people in our social circles. You are here, okay? I don't know if you can tell but because of the microphone, but you are here. You are close to my heart. and see you next time, my dear nerd.